Hey everyone, hey YouTube. I am making this video because I wanted to share a YouTube channel that I found and how it sort of explains some things that I've been seeing throughout my life. And I wanted to share that with you guys so that maybe you could check it out. So, two things that I've been observing throughout my life. I would say I started noticing trends in the economy during the George W. Bush era. I'm 36, so that's when I sort of came online in terms of noticing things. But I'm sure for people who are older, they've probably seen it going on for far longer. For people who are younger, maybe you haven't seen it for as long. But basically, the two things are decreasing living standards for ordinary people who live in this country and increasing wealth inequality, where the very, very rich have more and more and more and more total wealth. And I'd often heard those two things talked about like in the same sentence, but up until recently, I hadn't really been given a convincing mechanism for how those two things were related. And so, one of the things that I've seen recently is this YouTube channel, Gary's Economics. It's this British trader, former trader, economist, who basically made an absolute fortune by betting on declining living standards and the collapse of the economy. And what he worked out was that we've been we've basically been trying to preserve living standards through government spending, but all of that spending is making its way back up to the ultra wealthy through like the goods and services of the companies that they own. And so what that means is that wealth that's being injected is just flowing its way up to them. The thing that was really an eye opener for me is that when you have a very, very wealthy person, and when I say wealthy, I mean like tons and tons of passive income wealthy, not like a doctor, not like a lawyer, but the amount of income they make versus the amount that they have to spend, to keep themselves alive, even on like luxury spending, it's very, very heavily skewed toward having lots and lots of extra income. And these rich folks, they're pretty smart. They don't want to just sit on cash because that's going to lose value through inflation. And so what they do with that money is they buy assets. And when they buy assets, they are increasing the price of those assets. So they'll buy gold, they'll buy stocks, they'll buy homes, and all of those things get competitively more expensive for ordinary people who are working a job and they don't have an enormous amount of passive income to rely on to buy those things. So recognizing this trend actually made me realize something that I had been totally wrong on. And that was, so just for some context, I bought a house right before COVID. It ended up just being a lucky timing. I didn't know that we were going to be under a pandemic and that was going to cause a lot of government spending and that government spending was going to cause the price of assets to go up. But I bought a home, and now the home that I bought is worth a lot more than what I paid for it, and that feels pretty good, right? Because I'm watching my net worth grow, and it feels like the economy is moving in the right direction for me because I lucked out and I bought a house when I did. But what I was actually mistaken about is this is not a good thing for me. It's not a good thing for my the prices of assets to go up, whether it's stock or gold or houses, even if I am an owner, because I cannot afford to spend what the ultra wealthy spend on buying assets. So I will be buying proportionally fewer and fewer assets compared to the ultra wealthy as they continue to grow this wealth inequality. By buying up more assets, my savings, which, I work a good job, I live below my means, I am very interested in saving money and saving it effectively, saving it in vehicles that will have me prepared for the future. But as this growing wealth inequality continues to grow, I'm actually going to be buying fewer shares, buying less gold. I actually don't invest in gold, but buying fewer shares of stock, unable to afford assets like homes, paying more in property tax. So this trend, even though it feels good, is actually not good for my situation. And so it's not good for me, but I'm a software developer. I make a decent wage. I I'm gonna be okay, right? So really, what this video is not about me, but it's about who comes next. So I have a 5-year-old girl. She drew me this drawing and put all sorts of stars on it. And the economy that she's going to be entering when she comes of age is going to be different from the economy that I made my money in, and it's going to be different from the economy that my parents participated in. And if we allow wealth inequality to keep growing, she's not going to be able to buy a house. And it doesn't matter how much I save now, because I just can't compete with the growing top 0.1%. It's impossible. Even if I save as much money as I possibly can, I don't have an enormous stream of passive income to spend on more assets to drive the price up. So what's going to happen to me eventually is I'm going to need health care at the end of my life. That health care is going to be incredibly expensive. I'm going to have to sell my assets to get the money that I need to handle, my end of life care. And there's not going to be enough for my family to use that money to recapture those assets. We're getting squeezed out, is what I'm trying to say. The upper 1% are using their streams of passive income to squeeze out everybody. And I thought it was a good thing because, the value of my assets are increasing. My net worth is going up. It feels good, but it's actually bad. It's actually terrible, because by the time my child is ready to enter the economy, those assets will be worth a lot, but her income relative to those assets won't allow her to purchase the same proportion of assets that I did, even if she has a good paying job. And when I need that money from my assets to retire, who am I going to be selling it to? I'm going to be selling it to that upper 1%, and then they're going to own it, and I'm not going to have anything to pass down. All right, so that's what I wanted to share with you guys. If you could, please check out the Gary's Economics YouTube channel. I'll link it in the description. Educate yourself on what growing wealth inequality is doing to you and your family. And then like, comment, subscribe, all the stuff that lets YouTube know that a video is worth watching. I'm going to talk about more stuff. I'm going to try to keep these videos to be about 10 minutes long. But I have more stuff to talk about related to wealth inequality and what we can do. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you next time.